20th of October. Dear Mrs. Small, thank you for your kind letter, which the hospital forwarded to me today. I stumbled on some other letters of yours the other day, and I was wondering if you'd crop up again. It looks from the last letter you wrote me before the accident as if I'd upset you, for which I can only apologise and assure you that, as far as I'm concerned, the hatchet is well and truly buried. I have got to grips with the fact that I have a daughter called Leslie, as she has phoned me a couple of times in the middle of the night. I can't say I'm much drawn to her. She has a very shrill edge to her voice and seems to think I'm to blame for everything that's ever happened to her. If I've been as wicked to her as she tries to make out, it's a wonder the NSPCC didn't send me to the gallows years ago. I see from the newspapers that I used to be sex-mad, but I can't say I've had many stirrings since. My solicitor says that we must sue for loss of sex drive, but I'm in enough trouble already without aggravating the police. I'm to be charged with obstruction and willful damage to a bulldozer, which all sounds a bit far-fetched to me. It was interesting to read your reminiscences about the war, and it reminded me that the day war broke out, I started my periods, which seemed to me to be much more important at the time. As you say, the things you remember. I hope you write to me again soon. Everybody round here seems a bit embarrassed that I don't know them, but you seem much more fun. I hope the second time around you choose me for your friend again. Can I call you Vera? With love and gratitude, Irene Spencer.
30th of October. My dear Irene, I was very touched. Of course you can call me Vera. Talking to you about the war has set off a lot of reminiscences. I got an old photograph album out of the attic and had a flick through. I did laugh. Those trousers. We all seemed so happy. You wouldn't have thought there was a war on. I couldn't put a name to all the faces, but I did remember Gerald, my husband, who was jolly good-looking in uniform, but terribly wet at kissing. Which brings me to your point about sex drive. I never knew I had one until Gerald died, but looking at those pictures brought it all back to me. I felt a most peculiar stirring. I hope you don't mind my getting personal. It might be useful to your solicitor. It was something like a hot flush, but pleasanter. I got quite angry thinking about all we'd missed. You see, I was rather sheltered from life. My mother was a very reserved woman and never mentioned anything personal. The day my period started, I was too frightened to tell her. I ran down the road to my school friend Jeanie, who gave me an aspirin and the doings. Till the day she died, my mother never knew I menstruated. Heaven knows where she thought I got Karen and Howard. I sometimes wonder myself. Well, my dear, all for now. I hope you're eating plenty of fish. Let me know if you'd like a visit. Yours very affectionately, Vera.
4th of November. Dear Vera, thank you for another lovely letter. My recovery is going apace. I got my hearing back before leaving hospital, which hasn't been much of a comfort, since the only people who have been speaking to me are that awful girl, Leslie, my solicitor, who keeps saying, that'll be another £100, please, and the police, and the conversations have been rather one-sided. However, a few days ago when I was out shopping, a young man grabbed me by the collar, shoved a water pistol in my face and said if I didn't give him my pension and my jewellery, I'd be dead. Before I knew what I was doing, I'd stamped on his instep, elbowed him in the solar plexus and, picking him up off the floor, hissed, "Stealing from the elderly shrinks your ghoulies, you worthless hemorrhoid." I don't know who was more surprised, him or me. Imagine those being my very first words. I went straight back home and tried practising in front of the mirror, but so far all I can seem to manage are rude words. The strange thing is, I don't seem to care about the impression I make now. Maybe I should have had a blow to the head years ago. I feel unconstrained, as if I finally managed to get to the powder room and take off a crippling corset. Some days I wake up and think, I really should do that dusting, and then I think, sod that for a game of soldiers, and I go swimming. Last night I went to the pictures on my own and had a bag of popcorn and a hot dog and thoroughly enjoyed myself. The girl looked at me a bit askance when I asked for one to see, rain bollocks, but what do I care? If that boy Dustin Hoffman can get work with his appalling disabilities, then I can certainly pay my way to watch him at it. If you feel like taking a real risk, I'd quite fancy an outing with you in the not-too-distant. What do you say? Could you cope? Write and let me know soon. I've got to go now, as there's a man at the door wanting to read the frigging meter. Lots of love, Irene. Grosthorpe Police Cells, 18th of November. Dear Vera, as you can see from the above address, I am in dire straits and beg you to help. When I got off the train at Grosthorpe coming back from you, I bumped into Reverend Bruce, who was about to get his train to take up his new duties. A few parishioners were with him, and after we'd put him on the train, we decided to go and have a coffee. But as we were walking down the High Street, Veronica St. John spotted us and asked me how I was and how I'd felt about being charged. We were all getting quite heated, and the next thing I know, I'm being bundled into a police car, charged under the Public Order Act. Apparently you aren't allowed to talk to more than one person at a time in the street these days, otherwise you're inciting them to riot or something. Of course, my swearing affliction didn't help. You can imagine my surprised response to the two young officers who arrested me, or rather, I hope you can't, as I believe I surpassed myself this time. This morning I was remanded in custody awaiting trial, which could be for anything up to 2 years, apparently, owing to the queues. I am beside myself about Sydney. Could you please get him for me and look after him until my return? I know it's a big favour to ask, but you were the only person I've ever seen him register affection with besides myself. Apart from all this, I had a thoroughly enjoyable weekend with you, notwithstanding the drama at the play. I'm so sorry my memory had to return all in a rush like that during the quiet scene in the second act. I must say they were very decent about it in the bar afterwards. My spirits have risen since a kind WPC showed me yesterday's Mercury. Marjorie Bostock and the girls are organising an Irene Spencer is innocent bring and buy to try to raise my bail. I hope it's a good turnout, as it's been...
I hope it's a good turnout, as it's been set at £250,000. Lots of love, Irene. P.S. Sydney hates tin food of any kind except salmon. 26th of November, my dear Irene. I've collected Sydney, and he was glad to see me. I didn't have any salmon handy, so I gave him a tin of snails Howard bought on his last duty-free trip, and he wolfed them. I'm mustering everyone from here. The great Potterton players have really entered into the spirit and are going to mount a special show. I think it's O Calcutta. Must go. Sydney's barking. All my love, Vera. H.M. Prison Ship, Pride of Cleveland, 12th of December, my dear Irene. I've always wanted to visit one of Her Majesty's residences, but would have preferred it to have been Buckingham Palace. 2 days after I sent off your last letter, Customs and Exiles dropped in, through the skylight. Apparently they suspect me of being an international drug runner, but this I only learned after they'd smashed my entire collection of Port Merion teapots. They demanded to know who or what was Sydney. I should have thought that was self-evident, as the poor lamb was howling more ear-shatteringly than the hound of the Baskervilles. But they persisted in thinking he was a euphemism for drug abuse, as is salmon, crack, and snails, a type of psychedelic substance which makes you feel like a giant. This is being smuggled out for me by a charming Jamaican girl with whom I've been sharing a cell. She's going on parole today, and thinks she may stay out long enough to post a letter. Well, my dear, I must close, as Maxine is eager to be off. Keep your pecker up. Love, V.
Cell 214, H.M. Prison Ship, Pride of Cleveland, 20th of December. My dear V, what a chapter of incidents and coincidence. I have just heard on the grapevine that you and I are in the same boat, so to speak. Maxine was picked up almost immediately for possession of an offensive weapon, her afro comb, and was very upset not to have had time to post your letter. Imagine her surprise when she found she was sharing a police cell with me. I'd just read your letter, and she was telling me how you'd been keeping their spirits up with songs from the Blitz and your impressions of the warders when we were bundled up with our few possessions and shipped out here. News of your famous impersonations have reached our ears down here on deck F. You are awful. I bet the governor never said anything like that. Listen, my dear friend, rest assured that you won't be in for much longer. I have made a deposition to my lawyer. Well, I will have when I'm allowed to send it, stating your innocence re your connection with the drugs ring. I'm going to give this to Janice now, who's on kitchen duty, so she can give it to the girl on your deck. It's very pleasant, this feeling of comradeship, isn't it? No wonder they go on about the brotherhood of man. Seems silly that it's taken prison to introduce me to the sisterhood of women. All love, Irene. Kiss, kiss. Care of Sheep Dipper's Shed, 10th of May. Dear Vera, I don't know what right you've got to get shirty with me. If you're cross about me saying you're insane, you must be mad. I am perfectly compos, but I wasn't too proud to be declared unsound of mind if that meant my liberty. I'm very happy to be out, despite the fact that I'm working my fingers to the bone up here at Howard's. I know he's told you that he and Anthony are gay and that you're upset. But so what if they love one another? Your granddaughter Sabrina has nappy rash and colic. Karen's eczema has flared up again. Howard has alopecia and is down to 9 stone 2. Sydney's got enteritis, and Anthony's ingrowing toenail operation was not a success, but had sooner be here than in that hellhole of a prison ship. See sense and be insane. Best wishes, Irene. The Gables, Little Potterton, 14th of July. Dear Vera, I don't suppose you'll be interested, since you have apparently given up all concern for your erstwhile life outside, but I have moved into your old house for a while. I came here to get some peace away from Sheep Dipper's Shed. In that respect, I do miss prison life. Being banged up in solitary can sometimes be a blessing. I sold my house when I came out in order to pay our legal fees to the lady barrister and to fund your appeal. There's still some money left, so don't worry, I shan't be a drain on your resources. I'm sorry you've decided to give up your fight and spend the rest of your allotted inside. I had hoped that you and I would spend a jolly retirement together, perhaps travelling the world and doing everything that women of our generation could never do when our husbands were alive. Still, to each one his role. Thought for the day in today's Daily Mirror. And who am I to keep you from your destiny? I had a postcard from Leslie the other day. Keith has left her for another woman, and she's wondering if I'd like to go out there to look after Cheryl Marie while she gets on with her new career in real estate. But after my recent experiences with Karen and Sabrina...
I intend to give a wide berth to spoiled children in future. Kindest regards, Irene. Sheep Dipper's Shed, 22nd of July. Dear Irene, snatching a few moments from washing nappies to put pen to paper, or rather quill to recycled papyrus. Excuse the bumps and blotches. I've just cooked supper for 6 adults, a baby, 12 sheep, 3 dogs, 11 cats, 2 goats and a donkey. Even Jesus would have had trouble making a whole wheat loaf and a couple of free-range trout go round that lot. They are so incompetent. I can quite see why you left. We have a visiting Swami who meditates on the lawn, and who dyed my new underwear orange, and an out-of-work actor chum of Howard's who's helping in the shop. Clearly he's been helping himself, since the till has been out 3 days running. I've just realised you must be wondering what on earth I'm doing here. Well, it was all Arnon's doing. He was my therapist, a top Harley Street man consigned to shipboard duties after publicly announcing the government was balmy. He explained to me that staying inside was fulfilling my need to be needed, and that now the literacy class I was running had mastered Janet and John, I could leave them to themselves with the reading. He said he'd give me some LSD and we'd leave the rest to fortune. It was very dramatic. Apparently I shredded a sail with my bare hands and splintered the deck with a hatchet. I came to in a straitjacket. Eventually the governor signed a release form putting me in care of the community. It seems that if you are mad, you're safer on the outside. Everyone there's doolally. About the house, stay as long as you like, though I must say I do miss the garden. How true those sentiments, Wordsworth's, I think, about being closer to God in a garden. Not, I'm afraid, that I believe in God. There, I've said it. I've come to the conclusion that it's a gigantic con-trick to keep women in their place. Ask yourself who it is who arranges the flowers, irons the vestments, scrubs the flags, bakes the cakes, and yes, who sits in those uncomfortable pews while some ridiculous twit drones on about duty and self-sacrifice. Your offer of a touring retirement in parts unknown is certainly very attractive, but what, I wonder, would we fund it with? Write soon with a few of your cheery words. Your ever dear friend, Vera.
The Gables, 10th of August. Dear Vera, what an extraordinary story regarding your release. In fact, what an extraordinary turn our lives have taken altogether. It's almost as if we'd never lived before, what with the mundane round of bottling and jamming and bring and buys. And now we've both been in prison, both survived it stronger and wiser, and with, I think, a stronger sense of life's adventure. Now that I know you're safe and well, I've been concentrating my psychic powers on drawing good luck and money to us both. I don't know if it's had any effect your end, but so far nothing has happened here. I tend to agree with you about God and the Church. It is all a con-trick to keep us in our place. But I feel very strongly that there must be something else, some rhythm to life, some force of good and equally of evil, some otherness or isness linking us all to the whole or something. Damn it, someone at the door. Hang on. Well, I don't know what to say. My dear, my prayers are answered. You remember the demo which led to my arrest? How could you forget? We desperately needed funds, so Arthur Snooshall organised a raffle, and after all this time the blithering thing has been drawn, and I've won first prize. And you'll never guess what it is. A Dormobile camping van, fully fitted and equipped. It's a home, Vera, on wheels. What adventures we could have. Are you game? Do say yes. Let's take off and see the world. I've always wanted to, but never got past Marbella. Vera, this proves my point. There is a purpose to prayer and positive thinking, and magic does exist. Vera, I dare you to come with me and see the world. What have we got to lose? Right back sooner than soon, and hi-ho silver away. Your buccaneering friend, Irene.
14th of August, my dear Irene. My first response to your letter was a whoop of joy. Yesterday I heard that my bank manager has made some terrible errors with standing orders. As a result, I've defaulted on all mortgage and life insurance payments, and the building society are about to repossess. Let them. I'll cash in what's left of the life insurance. I was only hanging on to it to pay for my funeral. And up and away! I can't wait to be tucked up in those dear little bunk beds. Later. By the by, how big is this Dormobile? Space is so important in relationships. Arnon taught me that. I mean, I wouldn't call you territorial exactly, but when I stayed, you did put all my things in the corner and covered them with a dust sheet. Then there are other more personal functions. A home on wheels is just the place to discover the worst about toilet training. And how will you be with foreign food? You can't abide a Coquille San Jacques, and the natives are devils for garlic. Come to that, how will you be with the natives? We've had our ups and downs, and that was when we were living apart. How will we be together? Still later. Anthony was sorry for me. He gave me a set of runes, so I'm throwing them madly. Next morning. The runes said journey, so all being well, I leave Friday. Next morning. Woke in tears with a terrible sense of loss. Oh, Irene, we will be all right, won't we?
The Gables, 19th of August. Dear Vera, yes, you've hit the nail on the head. Change is very frightening. But what's the alternative? What use has fear been to us all our lives? It kept me unhappily married to a man who despised me, who couldn't keep his hands off our dinner guests. I'm damned if I'm going to make the same mistake twice, particularly at this late stage in my journey through life. Onwards, ever onwards is my battle cry for the rest of my allotted. We'll work it out if we both keep our senses of humour and try to live and let live. But just in case we temporarily lose our sense of humour, perhaps we should make a rule, like counting to 10 before we speak again, or saying sollocs like Amanda and Elliot in Private Lives. Or perhaps, and this might be most apposite for us, perhaps we should only communicate in writing if we're having a set to, thereby giving a chance for tempers to cool and reason to take over. Think about it. The world is very large, as Elliot told Amanda, and it's going to take us a very long time to get round it, Vera, so we're going to have to pack a great deal of patience and humour. But then what else has a life with Clive fitted me for, I ask myself. So if you feel up to the challenge, I shall pick you up at the Bull and Pestle at 10 a.m. on Friday, and we'll motor straight down to Dover, cross on the ferry, and be in France by the time the sun is over the yard arm. Here's to it. The next time we communicate in writing will be because one or other of us is being selfish and unreasonable, I imagine, so I'll take this opportunity of reminding you in writing, so you don't forget, that I am very fond of you, despite all your foibles, and I wish you only happiness, contentment, and great adventures. Sincerest and heartfelt regards, Irene. Kiss.
An auto route outside Calais. 26th of August. Irene! When I screamed right, right, I was not agreeing that the driver of the approaching truck was a blithering froggy cretin. I was in fear of my life. They drive on the right in this country. Oh. P.S. I counted to 10 before I wrote this, but at this rate it needs to be 40. The